my name is Fricke. I've been around for about 10 years in the 3D market, and I've been working for GTA Geoinformatics ever since, starting out as a developer and now being in key account management. So just to have a simple view, I said what we're looking at right now in this presentation is how to produce 3D models, large scale. We're not talking about one building, two buildings, one city, many cities, eventually the whole world one day. So what do we need to do to make this happen? We use automatic stereo vision processes. So what I need is good oriented georeferenced imagery. Stereo imagery, that means it has an overlap just like your brain uses your right and your left eye. You have two pictures in your brain, and the brain makes a 3D model out of that. That's why we all can see depths. So we need orientation. We need two images or more. Then we calculate a dense point cloud. I will show you images later. A good 3D representation of reality in points. And then it becomes even more challenging. You have to do object recognition in that point cloud to find out more about the world that you have just captured. Because just seeing a point cloud, just seeing a surface is not it. You need to know what is actually in there. So object recognition, object measurement, object description is a vital point. And then, of course, you can texture it, make a nice model which you can have a look at and visualize wherever and whenever you want. So what could be sources for such modeling? In our technology, we try to use as many possible sources as you can imagine. So we use source material, as I said, overlapping images, but those can be taken by a car, by helicopter, by UAV, by satellite, by even a hand camera. Of course, you could also use LiDAR, but LiDAR has the disadvantage of not really seeing what you're doing, so you don't have the visual control of your process. Even though it's good material, so nothing against LiDAR, but I prefer to have both, but we don't have to have LiDAR. It works also with images only, as you will see. So what's the workflow? I just said the input is stereo images. I'll just leave alone LiDAR for now. So stereo images, the first step, we produce with a semi-global matching algorithm, which is highly optimized. A point cloud is produced, like you can see here. And in this high-definition point clouds, you can see all the structures of the objects that you later want to detect are still in. Now, these point clouds have been taken only from nadir images. So you're looking from top to down, and that's why in many cases you will not see the facades. I will later show you an example where this problem is solved. It's simply a matter you have to see something that you want to model. If I close my eyes, I have also problems seeing what is happening. So the eye of the nadir camera is blind on the sides. Now, a next step would be something that is quite popular these days, is to make a surface model. Here you can see a model that has been created from 4 cameras from the sides, oblique imagery, plus nadir. So it's 5 camera system that has been used to produce this type of model. And here we have a model that is really a surface model of the complete surface of the area, which means the buildings are in, the trees are in, everything is in, but right now this is just something to look at. So it's a surface model, a mesh. I sometimes like to call it a melting model, because when you come close to it, it kind of melts away. It doesn't have the straight edges and things like that. It's not object-oriented. It's only something you can look at. So the next step, and this is a unique feature of our Triticon software solutions, is that you actually do automatic object detection. So now what is object detection all about? We kind of try to copy this from creation. I hope that we will not get sued by the creator for stealing his ideas, but What does a child do? A child says, okay, Daddy, what is this? I tell him, okay, that's a remote control. So the child, next time it sees something like this, it will say, hey, Daddy, is this also remote control? Oh, no, it's a telephone. So the child in its brain will use certain parameters. Okay, it's got keys on it, so it could be a more remote control or it could be a phone. Now it will then eventually check, does it have speakers? So it should be a phone, not a remote control. You can make this with almost any object that you look at. You will, if you're out there driving in the dark, sometimes you do not recognize objects. So I sometimes think, is this a person standing by the road, or is it just a tree or a pillar? And when I get closer, I can match the objects that are in my brain, and I can say, okay, it's not a person because it doesn't have arms, it doesn't move, so it's a pillar. I can drive by safely. So we do the same in our object recognition. We describe objects like buildings with certain parameters. Certain characteristics of these objects are put in the software, and of course this is growing every day. And as soon as you can find these objects and match these objects in the point cloud, you are able to detect this with a certain level of security. There are algorithms that give you also the reliability of this process. So you know with a certain reliability, this is a saddleback building. And this works pretty well, actually, without any further input into the software. And then you can deduce, of course, 2D maps from this. You could introduce more and more objects, just as the only limit to this is actually the resolution of your source imagery, because you can imagine if you're working with satellite imagery with 50 centimeter resolution, you will have a hard time finding a traffic sign in there, because simply it's not in. You don't see it. It's like me taking off my glasses and I have a problem reading the letters. My recognition doesn't work because my resolution is too poor. So I use these little helpers. This is another picture of how this works. You can see on the left side, you can see the point cloud with the objects that have been detected. On the right side, the objects that are left without the point cloud. So these objects then are GIS-able objects. They have a unique ID, which can be, of course, linked to cadastre if that is necessary. So if cadastre is necessary, we put in the cadastre map as a reference. So you have the direct connection in the database between the two. And it knows which is a roof, it knows which is a wall, and you can continue processing. Now, an automatic texturing, then, which is a little bit better known than the object recognition itself. You then take again the imagery and map it onto the facade. And there's different levels of also disturbances that you can filter out. This is just a very quick model that was done with a rather new camera system. I'm not sure if I should name the company, so maybe I shouldn't say this publicly, but it's a large, well-known camera company which has a very nice new 5-camera system. And actually this model, there was no handwork involved at all in these buildings. Now you may ask about how good is it, how many percentage do you have? I would be a liar if I would tell you everything works everywhere 100% automatic. That's simply not true. That's not how life is. But we are aiming at around 85–90% automatic detection, which means that we can have to correct the building roof types maybe, or the orientation of the ridge. But this is different if you're in a European ancient medieval town center. You will not reach 90%. If you're in an American suburb, you will maybe already reach 100% accuracy, or detection rate, I should say. Now, of course, there is statistics. You all know statistics, so never believe a statistics that you didn't do yourself. So I'm happy that we have customers testing our software in the German public agencies, and We had just a German state, check this software solution during a tender, and they ended up with 93% accuracy, and Cologne was part of it. So, well, it couldn't be too bad. So I should say a little bit more about texturing. I still have time. So texturing, how does this work? Of course, you have to make sure that you do not texture one building with a picture that only includes another. So the first step is you have to calculate occlusion. So you first build a model, and then you see one face on that model, where is it actually visible, and then you can find the best picture to texture that facade. We have several ways of texturing the facades. One is, of course, from oblique aerial images, like you have seen. The resolution is limited, obviously. So you can, of course, do the classical manual texturing. I don't have to tell you about that. We did that 10 years ago, so that's not new. Maybe interesting, however, to see that there is also technologies that is actually also patented to actually take an intelligent facade reconstruction to parameterize a facade in different steps. And we're still working to make this 100% automatic. Right now, we're not quite satisfied yet with the reliability of the automatic, so this still needs a little bit more interaction. But it's a very interesting technology, I think, because you can reduce data volume extremely well by applying different types of libraries of different levels of detailedness in the facade for different rendering machines. You could even use this to analyze it further, because you have not only a facade with a bitmap, but you have a lot of attributes in that facade that can be used in different applications. Okay, these are a few examples of automatic texturing. Here you can still see that we didn't take into account the trees. We could do that by now, but this was last year. This is a model of Berlin with a parametric texture, so recognizability is high. If you've ever been to Berlin, you'll know immediately where you are, but it's not the real image. So it's a map representation. And I sometimes think that geoinformatics should have a little bit still to do with maps. So I'm not always into this everything has to be photorealistic, because if I drive or if I work in a GIS system, I don't want to look out the window. If I want to look out the window, I have all these details. But if I want to know straight what is the importance about this scenario, I'm happy if I have a map representation that helps me recognizing the important things right now. So this is something where I would prefer a map representation like this. Okay, a few visualizations from urban planning. Another thing that, of course, is always connected to 3D is solar potential cadastre. And also here we have a great advantage in using stereo imagery to generate a highly dense point cloud from existing imagery, because at least in Germany, but I think it's worldwide almost, everybody has stock of aerial imagery. So you can use that without having to fly expensive LiDAR to make a very detailed surface model, to use this for shading, to use this to calculate for each roof face. You will take the weather conditions, of course. You will take the angle of incident of the light. But then you have all these points and all these meshes that come from the point cloud, from the automatic point cloud, that will give you all the shading. It will give you all the chimneys. It will give you all the dormers. It will give you every tree. So we have a very accurate measurement and calculation of the solar potential of each roof face or any other face that you want to model and that you want to take into account. Of course, you can use our solutions also for modeling inside in more detail. Okay, I think I'm a little bit ahead of time, so I will let me give you this one more slide. This is more an internal thing. For those of you that know GTA Geoinformatics for a long time, because we have been around in the 3D market for about 15, 20 years, so you might wonder what is going to happen. GTA Geoinformatics is now a software company that will license all these solutions that I have shown you to anyone that is interested in producing 3D data by themselves. That is government, that is companies. We have a customer in Japan from the field of energy. So you're free to use that software, to license that software, to build up all that know-how, that capacity in your own agency or company. But then still there's people that say, okay, I don't even know if this is going to be a market for me. I don't know if this is going to happen for me, for my company. I don't want to build up all that capacity, or I cannot build it up. So we decided to split up GTA Geoinformatics into two companies. So right now I'm here with a split personality because it's just happened. There's GTA GeoService GmbH that will still continue helping those that say we don't want to buy the software because we don't want to build up all that know-how. And there's GTA Geoinformatics that serves those that say, okay, we want to do it ourselves. We want to lay hands on it, and we want to produce 3D data in many different flavors and shapes for ourselves. Okay, I think that's it from my side.